Life Audio.
Welcome to the Team Us podcast, where we share how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together. Hey everyone, we're Ted
and Ashley Slater. We all bring individual talents, abilities, and ambitions into marriage. On today's episode, we share 4 ways we can encourage and support our spouse in pursuing and accomplishing their personal aspirations and goals. So, Ted, as we enter 2025...
Can you believe it?
No, not really. I admit that I sometimes still feel like a teenager back in the 1990s who thinks of like 2025 as way in the future.
Yes, 2025 has been way in the future.
Yeah.
We just caught up.
I know. Well, I found a list of movies about the distant future that now take place in our past. So you want to hear a couple titles?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of some too. The
right.
obvious one is Back to the Future.
Yeah, it's Back to the Future 2.
2.
Right.
They went back in the first one. They went forward in the second one?
Yes.
Okay.
It was released in 1989, and it took place in 2015. That's a decade ago.
Oh, my lands. Well, technically 9 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm messing with you. Yeah, a decade ago.
Right. Tomorrow it'll be a decade ago, since it's New Year's Eve today.
Yes.
But, I mean, we still don't have flying cars. They did have them in Back to the Future, too.
Elon is working on it.
Okay, so maybe by 2035?
Yeah.
All right, another one is 2001 Space Odyssey.
Which takes place in 2001.
Right. Yes, they make it easy for us to remember that. But it was released back in 1968. And we haven't seen this one since like 2003 or 2004.
Back when you were in grad school, maybe?
Yeah, maybe when I was in film school. But here's the thing. If I remember correctly, AI played a huge role in it.
Oh, yeah, HAL. Which, if you add one letter to each of those, what's above H? I.
Yeah.
What's after A?
B.
What's after L? IBM.
M. Oh.
Did you know that? It was a play on IBM.
No, actually,
so it's HAL.
I may have heard that before, but I didn't remember it. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah.
Do you have another one?
I have one more.
Yeah.
The 1982 Blade Runner that starred Harrison Ford. Now, I haven't seen this, but you and our oldest daughter, Olivia, watched this.
And we saw the sequel, too, which I frankly thought was really
that
really
had
interesting.
Ryan, not Reynolds.
Reynolds? Gosling?
No, it's not. It's Gosling. Yeah. Ryan Gosling.
Too many Ryans.
Yeah, Ken, as I like to call him.
I'm just Ken.
Right. Anyway, that one was set in 2019.
Goodness. But it is 2025 tomorrow. So
Right. And as we step into 2025, we thought we'd talk about how we can support each other's individual aspirations and goals. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about dreaming together on the podcast, which is important as we write a shared story together. But, you know, as couples or spouses, we also bring individual talents, abilities, and ambitions into marriage. And we can encourage and support each other in pursuing and accomplishing those.
So is this like when you make what are those things that people do in January?
Oh, like New Year's resolutions?
Resolution. Why did I forget the word resolution?
You know, I think a resolution
is a short-term thing?
Is more of a short-term thing.
Going to the gym,
right.
reading.
I want to lose 30 pounds or
like
I want to be more active. Uh-huh. But I think that when we're talking about these aspirations or goals, they could be something that, you know, one of us has been dreaming about for a while.
Okay. So it could be going to the gym or it could be something bigger than that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you want to, as far as the gym thing goes, maybe it's you love to run and it's always been your goal to do a marathon or a 5K.
Right. And
going to the gym more often is going to be part of getting you to your goal.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool.
I think it's that kind of thing. So, okay, after a short break, we're going to share 4 ways to encourage and support our spouse in their aspirations and goals, whether that's a 5K or something else.
Excellent.
So today we're sharing 4 ways we can encourage and support our spouse in their aspirations and goals. And the first one that I have is kind of a no-brainer.
But you got to say it.
Right. Ask your spouse what their aspirations and goals are and what tools or resources they may need to achieve them. So I think that many of us may already know what our spouse's aspirations and goals are, or at least we think we do. But it never hurts to sit down and have a conversation. That was hard to say. Conversation. Right. Especially the longer we're married, because I think aspirations and goals can evolve or look different over the years. And I think that maybe, say, when we first get married, we have this goal of hitting a certain point in our career, and say, 15 years into marriage, we've hit that goal, and now we have a new goal of where we want our career to go.
Okay.
So I think that's one way that, aspirations or goals can change. I'm thinking of people who maybe go into teaching, and they love teaching, but the further they get in their career, maybe they're like, I'd really like to work in administration.
So they might have to go back to college to get a teaching degrry, a master's degree or something.
Right. So I think that's one example. They want to focus more on curriculum or on, like you said, on becoming a principal or something. Yeah. And for me, when I graduated grad school or in grad school, we met. I was not expecting to meet you. I was not expecting to get married. I was expecting to go have a career. But, God shifted my goals and my priorities. And I decided, hey, I want to stay home with our kids once we started having kids. And so I've really been doing, editing and proofreading and writing part-time, as I've homeschooled, as they were babies and then homeschooled. Right. But now, we have 2 adult children and 2 teenagers. Within the next 5 years, they'll all have graduated high school. And so I'm starting to go, okay, what are my goals and aspirations once that happens? Do I want to start editing full time? Do I want to write another book? Do I want to go back to school? So I think that this idea of, I think it's important not to assume that we know what our spouse's goals and aspirations are. Right. Particularly when there's a change in season. We've been in a season for over a decade and a half of educating our younger kids. And that season's changing. And so I can see how maybe your goals or aspirations might develop and change. You might have something new you want to try. Right. And now you used to work for companies. Used to work for the man. And then a few years ago, you went freelance and now you're your own boss who has clients. And so that means, I think, your goals and aspirations, may be different now than they were, a decade ago. Right. A little more long-term. Yeah. Investment in, the role of being the boss. Right. Boss man. And once we ask our spouse, what their aspirations and goals are, then we can also say, okay, well, what are the tools or resources you need? Say you do need to go back to school, then that can be a discussion of, okay, well, let's look at how we can pay for that or what the schedule is going to look like. Or, even as I'm trying to continue to grow in my editing and writing, you're like, okay, what do you need? Any software? Do you need, I've recently bought the new edition of the Chicago Manual of Style because they came out with a new one. That is no joke how heavy that is and how much that costs. Big book. So yeah, I think this first one is 2-part. Ask your spouse what their goals and aspirations are, and then ask them what they need to work towards those. Yeah, it sounds like a basic question, but it is fundamental. So they'll have a good conversation. Right. And if you don't know that, you're going to be working off of perhaps faulty information. There you go. Or misunderstandings. So, okay, number 2. Yeah. Help your spouse make the time to pursue and accomplish their aspirations and goals. So life is busy. Sometimes we have to fight for the time to pursue those things that we want to accomplish. And I think as spouses, we can make sacrifices to help each other make time. Sure. It can be as simple as, hey, I'll pick up the groceries on the way home from the dentist, or I'll take the kids to dance today, or whatnot. Right. As simple as that. Or it could be, hey, when you were going to the conference, right? Yeah. We found a way to pay for the flight and the hotel and
And then I took care of some of the driving, some of the home activities while you were out of town.
Yeah. And I mean, financially, they did give me a stipend, but I took our oldest daughter. So
this is a conference that Ashley was a speaker on.
I was a panelist.
A panelist.
Yes.
But she did speak.
Yes.
So she was a speaker.
Well, and I was reading an article by Greg Smalley over at Focus on the Family, and he was talking about things that he did while encouraging his wife, Erin's dream of getting a master's degree. And I thought something that he shared was helpful. He said, being with her heart and soul meant more than just verbal and financial support. I arranged to work from home 1 day a week and made a commitment of my time. Erin worked 3 years to finish her thesis in clinical hours. So, I mean, that's 3 years of working at home 1 day a week. And not everybody has that flexibility. But I think that that's an example of being creative in figuring out how to sacrifice and support your spouse in a very practical way.
And that's got to feel good. I bet his wife feels really good that he sacrificed that way for her, right?
Right. And now, I mean, they work together at Focus.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take another short break, and when we return, we'll share 2 more ways to encourage and support our spouse in their aspirations and goals. So in this episode, we're talking about practical ways we can encourage our spouse in their aspirations or goals. And number 3 is encourage your spouse to take risks and step out of their comfort zone and support them in practical ways when they do. And not all of us are, I think, confident and gung-ho when it comes to pursuing the aspirations and goals that we have. I think sometimes they can feel daunting or scary. And I know for me personally, I get imposter syndrome, which can make me be like, should I do that? Should I not do that? Could I do that?
Well, you did this with me a few years ago when I was winding down with a particular employer, and you encouraged me to not have an employer and to freelance 100% of my time.
Yes, and that was scary.
It was scary. It was scary because, I couldn't rely on, the paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. So I had to develop the clients and do the work and do the contracts and then get the LLC. But you encouraged a lot of that. I'm not sure it would have happened if it hadn't been for your encouragement.
Yeah, because you like to stay comfortable.
Status quo, right?
Yeah, and we did have a generous family member who helped us financially during that time as you were getting the business off the ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the conference you mentioned where I was a panelist.
Yes.
You encouraged me to do that because I hadn't really done that before.
No, you hadn't. It was out of your comfort zone.
Right, and that's because I wanted to always stay home with the kids. I didn't want to go off to conferences and speak because I didn't want to miss that time. But now that they're getting older, it's something I can do. And I actually really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I was like, I would do this again.
Nice.
So
you are such a networker.
No, I hate networking. I like building genuine relationships and friendships.
that was totally a joke. I know.
Yeah. Well, I knew you were joking. I just thought I'd clarify. All right. So should we do number 4?
Yeah.
All right. Number 4 is celebrate your spouse's successes, both big and small. I think that sometimes as we're working towards these goals, even when we have, each other's support, it's hard sometimes to work towards goals. There can be setbacks. There can be discouragements. There can be moments when we feel like we're failing. So I think that it's really important to celebrate. And we had an episode on celebrating in the past where we talked about not just celebrating. I mean, I guess this one I'm saying celebrate your spouse's successes, but maybe it should be more of celebrate your spouse's hard work. Because sometimes you might work really hard and have a setback or a failure, but you worked really hard. And I think that should be recognized.
Or maybe instead of success, say milestone.
That's good.
If you complete a semester or complete a particular test or exam or whatever, a certification, I think that's worth celebrating as you're on your way to pursuing your goals. Yeah.
Or if the one I mentioned earlier, you want to do a 5K. I don't know why I keep bringing that up because I really hate running. I like to walk. But I, say that you do train all month long. You're consistent.
Right.
Celebrate that. Yeah. And I think listeners could go back and listen to that episode on celebrating because we really dive into different ways and things to celebrate.
Practical.
Right.
Cool.
All right. So to recap, here are 4 ways to actively encourage and support our spouse's aspirations and goals, as we go into 2025 and just in general. 1, ask your spouse what their aspirations and goals are and what tools or resources they may need to achieve them. 2, help your spouse make the time to pursue and accomplish their aspirations and goals. 3, encourage your spouse to take risks and step out of their comfort zone and support them in practical ways when they do. And 4, celebrate your spouse's milestones, both big and small. All right, we're going to take one more break. And when we return, we'll be back with this week's Us Time Challenge. For this week's Us Time Challenge, think of one personal goal or aspiration you have for 2025. Share that with your spouse and give them ideas on how they can encourage and support you in it. And then ask them what they aspire to and how you can encourage and support them.
Right. That sounds like a fun conversation.
Yeah.
It's not a hard one. Just date night, ask the question, chat.
Maybe it can replace that resolution making.
Right.
Maybe.
Great. That's a great point.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Team Us podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast, and we'd love to have you leave a review over at Apple Podcasts. We're looking forward to next time as we keep talking about how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Team Us with Ted and Ashley Slater is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review the podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
I'm Don Hawkins, and I once heard Chick-fil-A founder Truett Cathy say, "You can tell if a person needs encouragement, check to see if they're breathing." I'd like to invite you to my weekly podcast, Encouragement for You, featuring encouraging guests like Dr. Greg and Aaron Smalley, Dan Cathy, the late Dr. Frank Menrith, Josh McDowell, and more. To subscribe to my weekly Encouragement for You podcast, go to lifeaudio.com. That's lifeaudio.com.